This is Counter Narrative News, bringing you daily news today on Sunday, the 26th of February 2023. In Tunisia, mass protests have broken out against the anti-black racist remarks by the Tunisian President Kais Saied. Kais Saied pretty much word for word echoed the long-standing Nazi false assertion that there is some kind of global conspiracy, which historically they argued was conducted by the global domination by the Jewish elites to conduct a quote-unquote great replacement of Western white populations by those that they consider less than human than those white people in their white supremacist framework, i.e. they falsely argued and continue to argue that there is a great replacement agenda by the global elites to replace Western white people by basically non-European black and brown migrants and people. And President Said has very much reiterated this pretty much word for word in the context of North Africa and particularly Tunisia around the migration of darker-skinned African people to the south, going to the relatively more affluent northern region of Africa. Anti-black racism is a problem throughout every nation and state in the world, and it's definitely a problem in North Africa as well. It's great to see, and one welcomes the protests in the streets of Tunis. As well as this situation of anti-blackness, there is the very deeply violent record historically of anti-black violence conducted by NATO in its operation against Libya in 2011. Very much so, the lynching of darker-skinned African people was a defining, disgusting action and modus operandi of the so-called pro-NATO Libyan rebels from the outset of the activities in the horrific lynching of black people in Benghazi when the uprising broke out. And that really unleashed a greater system of anti-black oppression across Africa, which opened up the Libyan migrant route there. Also, the Association of Students from Mali in Tunisia has called for a boycott of their members of all private educational institutions in Tunisia in protest as well about these racist remarks from the president there. Going over to the USA, the family of Malcolm X, the Shabazz family, are suing the CIA, the FBI, and the New York Police Department, who they very correctly claim are all implicated in the conspiracy that led to the death and the martyrdom of Malcolm X on February the 21st, 1965. In 2021, Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam were both released from their prison sentences and exonerated for having been wrongly accused of being implicated in the assassination of Malcolm X. A former NYPD officer, Raymond Wood, who died in 2020, stated in his public statements that he had himself infiltrated the organization of Malcolm X and lured many of his security detail into criminality in the lead-up and in order to facilitate the targeting and the attack and the outcome of the death of Malcolm X. So many questions remain there, and it's very important that the Shabazz family pursue this line of struggle to get clarity and justice for themselves. It also has to be said that the political agenda and strategies and leadership of Malcolm X are still very relevant today, and those are for mostly a radical revolutionary anti-colonial outlook and solidarity and framing of the global revolution, which Malcolm X called the Black Revolution in his message to the grassroots. So global solidarity against colonialism and white supremacy, a militant self-defense movement against violent racism, including by the police and other state authorities and street racists, and thirdly, developing a serve the people type of radical movement in communities, oppressed communities, particularly black communities themselves. Going over to Ukraine, President Zelensky in Kiev has responded quite interestingly to the proposal of the Beijing leadership in their so-called peace plan, which does recognize in the first couple of points that Russia has engaged in the illegal invasion of a sovereign nation. It does state that, but does not state how that can be put into a framework of justice, and then leans towards the Russian side in this whole conflict, arguing for their side in relation to NATO expansion. President Zelensky has responded to it in a quite clever manner, saying that he really hopes that the Chinese are definitely interested in contributing to a just and peaceful resolution of the Russian aggression and the conflict in Ukraine there. And he wants to meet with the Chinese leadership and Xi Jinping as soon as it's convenient to discuss this going forward. It's arguably a correct approach of Zelensky in this particular regards, as he is trying to put influence on China to have a consistent and principled stand in relation to Ukraine, and he very much referenced this, that's Zelensky, when he said that China has always stood on the principle of respecting sovereignty of nations, and he hopes that this will be the case in regards to the Ukrainian nation. And very much so, Beijing has always had very close relations with Kiev as well. Going to Britain, it's been revealed that one in 100 police officers last year faced criminal charges while serving as police officers. The criminality within the police forces has rocketed since 2012 and continues to spike and jump up in recent years. This is around the understanding, if we understand the nature of the society and the political system in which this operates. As things go forward, the capitalist system creates more crises as it seeks to oppress and exploit people more to achieve the maximum rate of profit, and also in competition with other capitalist forces. So they very much need the more violent elements of the state, that's the police and the intelligence services and the security services, etc., to ensure the facilitation of their exploitation and their oppression. The police forces in Britain are more exposed arguably than they ever have been before. However, they are not mass protests from the grassroots or even from the left or any real political movement that one would have thought that this whole situation of the growing scandals in the police around violent misogyny, violent racism, all kinds of corruption and criminality. You would have thought that this would actually see people marching in their hundreds of thousands on the London Metropolitan HQ at New Scotland Yard, but there is nearly an absence of anything like that. That's Counter Narrative News, bringing you daily news today on Sunday the 26th of February 2023. Please do continue to support us by encouraging your contacts to subscribe to our YouTube channel and following us on Twitter at counter_CNN. And a big thank you to everyone who is already subscribed to us and liking and commenting and sharing. We wish you a fantastic day.